Now, as the Philip Schofield saga continues to unfold, who knew what and when remains the main question.
Dame Caroline McCall, ITV's chief executive, has been summoned to give evidence to the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee on the 14th of June.
Well, we're now joined by Dame Caroline Dineage, Conservative MP for Gosport and the chair of the DCMS Select Committee. So, good morning to you. So can you tell us why you've called in ITV on the 12th of June? 14th of June.
Yes, so ITV were originally due to come in on this coming Tuesday anyway, because the committee's looking at the draft media bill. And because of everything that's been in the news recently that you'll all be aware of, there was a massive risk that that meeting would be dominated with committee's very genuine and understandable concerns about what's been going on at ITV with regard to safeguarding of junior staff members, with regard to whistleblowing, with regard to potential non-disclosure agreements. And so we decided to invite Dame Caroline McCall in for a separate meeting so that we could cover off all those issues and this other really important bit of pre-legislative scrutiny doesn't get overwhelmed by what's been going on at ITV.
So what are you hoping to get, to find out? What are you hoping to get from ITV?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not a witch hunt. I don't really want to sort of get into the weeds of the individual cases around Philip Schofield, but that case has raised some genuine concerns about workplace culture, about things like potential abuses of power. We know that among some of these big public service broadcasters, they have these kind of gods of broadcasting, these big celebrity media stars who have a disproportionate and very large amount of influence, and it's just really important to ensure that there's the right safeguarding in place to make sure that that influence isn't used to disproportionately affect the careers of other younger staff members, that there's the right systems and processes in place to protect staff who work at the organisation. It's the same for any organisation, but within the media there is this sort of disproportionate split of power, if you like. But also it's become apparent over the last few days that there are a number of attempts to draw attention to this to ITV bosses. So do they have the right systems and processes in place for whistleblowers? Are complaints being taken seriously? And then finally, I had a letter from Dame Caroline McCall earlier this week saying that they have appointed a barrister, an independent barrister, to look into this. But it hasn't set out what the terms of reference are for that inquiry. It hasn't set out the timescales. And there are a number of, it almost sort of posed more questions than it answered. And that's why we really want to try and get to the bottom of some of the concerns that the committee have.
Caroline, what would you say to people who said that, well, unlike the BBC and unlike Channel 4, ITV's a private company subject to the law like everybody else, and therefore it's not really the business of a parliamentary select committee to be looking at its internal procedures?
Yeah, I mean, I have heard that argument, Phil, and what I would say in response is that ITV is also a public service broadcaster. Our committee and the public at large, I think, feel that it's really important that they do have a duty of care towards their staff, that this is a matter regarding issues of safeguarding, regarding issues of complaint handling, and that's of high importance. And the public must have confidence in public service broadcasters to make sure that they are robustly safeguarding the interests of their staff. So I do think this is something that both the committee and the public at large do have concerns with. Unfortunately, ITV do not have a very good track record over the last few years. We've had incidents with Love Island, with Caroline Flack, terrible, tragic incidents. We've had the Jeremy Kyle show. There seem to be lurching from one tragic disaster to another, and I do feel that it's time that Caroline McCall came before the committee and answered a few questions.
Okay. Can I also ask what the process is going to be? Is this just going to be a one-off evidence session with ITV, or are you going to be producing a report on the back of this evidence session with your conclusions about what's happening, or is it just going to be a one-off standalone session?
At the moment, it's just a one-off standalone session. It was really because we have as I said, the draft media bill coming before us on Tuesday, and there was a real worry that would be completely overwhelmed by the committee with questions about what's been going on at ITV, and that would then not allow that piece of important legislation to be properly scrutinised. So I thought it was important to have a standalone meeting with Caroline McCall. I hoped to do it on the same day, but she wasn't available, but she gave us an alternative date, which we've taken. At the moment, there's no, the ITV themselves are doing an independent inquiry. We'll keep an eye on that, and then if more work is necessary in the future, then of course we'll do it. But I don't want to sort of disproportionately use the committee's time for this. But there are certainly some unanswered questions.
And if other people wanted to come and give evidence about what's been going on, would you consider reopening it and doing something bigger on it, or are you just literally just going to speak to the chief executive and you don't really want to open it up any further than that at the moment?
Well, I mean, I think I'm as ever, Phil. I'm really keen that this committee serves the interests of the British people and Parliament. If people have evidence that they want to share with me via my email address, they're very welcome to send it in. And if I feel that would warrant a full inquiry, then of course that's what we will do at some point in the future. I've got quite a backlog of things that the committee's looking at. We've got the gambling white paper that we're about to start looking at, as I say, the draft media bill, and as we move further on in the year, I want to do more work on how artists are remunerated, people like musicians and writers. So there's we've obviously got issues with things like streaming and how that we've spoken about that before, how the money ends up.
Caroline Dineage, you've got a lot to do. We won't take up any more of your time, so thank you very much
and
indeed.
Congratulations on becoming the chairman of the committee. We're very pleased that you're the new chair of the committee, and we wish you well in your time in that position.
Well, she certainly got
Thanks
off to a fine start, a quick start there.